What's up, everybody? This is Tom with Deep Video Live, once again here on location at Division Brewing and Growl Records in Arlington, Texas. And we're very happy to have our very first follow-up interview with the first band we ever interviewed with this current production team.
Yeah, buddy.
The homies Blake and Alex from Brooklyn's own Anti-Sapien. Welcome back, guys.
What up? Thank you for having us. Psyched to be back.
Yeah, man. Thanks for taking the time. Unfortunately, we got to keep this a little bit quicker than we did last time.
Absolutely.
So last time you guys were here, we were all freezing our asses off, and now we're all a bunch of sweaty messes.
I was gonna say we had the perfect juxtaposition of weather differences. Last time we were in Texas, we drove through blizzards. I think we left the venue in a snowstorm, slept through the ice storm, woke up. It was just complete winter hell in Texas. And then today our AC got fixed because it was 100-something degrees. So just about as opposite as it could get. Yeah.
So my question is, why do you guys always just pick the worst times to come here? It's just you.
Jobs. It's the January, August are the slow seasons.
Let me tell you about the economy, children. It's terrible.
Punk rock indeed.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I'm not going to be at work already, so it won't take as bad of a hit, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. We had to coordinate it with Perpetual Warfare as well. So.
Of course.
Yep.
Sometime in the summer, we didn't want to do it again in July like we did last year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but, thank you for coming. And on a more serious note, last time we were here, we talked pretty extensively about the younger generation's role in just keeping this whole thing going. And we've been very fortunate to see that continue since you guys were here in January. There's been tons of little kids at shows like this. In fact, the last time we were here, quick little anecdote, we ended up here at a show that we didn't even really know was happening until the day of. We were just looking for something to do on a Friday night, but both Jason and I found out there was a show at Growl. He showed up with his family just to get some pizza and hang out. And he's like, "What? There's a metal show?" And I was like, "It's Friday night. I want to do something." Oh, there's a show happening at Growl.
That's amazing.
We show up here, and what does the first band do? They break out a bunch of pool noodles, and there's people here with their families and whatnot. I got the absolute piss beaten out of me by a bunch of little kids with pool noodles in the room next door.
That's what's up. Kids are still carrying that torch.
Yeah, so I'm curious, what examples have you guys seen since the last time? Since the last time
so we did a tour, a little run in June through like Tennessee and sort of like Midwest areas, Pittsburgh and stuff. What's that?
Rust Belt.
The Rust Belt. That's right. We did the Rust Belt tour this June, and yeah, that tradition carries strong. There's just more and more, at least for what I can see, young people who are a lot more open-minded than I would say people might have been even like 10 years ago. And I think we talked about that last time. Young kids, they're breaking that generational standard of like, gatekeeping, and you got to be a certain way or look a certain type, or like you can only listen to these bands. Nah, these kids are just like, hey, I'm here, I'm having a good time. Like I went to the thrift store and bought some clothes and chopped them up, dyed my hair, whatever. And you see kids like moshing the way people did in the 90s, like kickboxing and stuff, but it's not a bunch of tough guys trying to fight each other. It's just a bunch of kids in like sweatpants being nerds, like having the best time. And it's fucking awesome. It's just really good to see that kind of energy just like translate into like a safe space versus like, again, the 90s when kids did that, it was like, you're getting beat up. There's going to be some kind of altercation or confrontation. These kids are just like going hard because it's how they feel, and no one's getting offended if they get hit. They're just partying.
Yeah, it just comes with the territory.
Exactly.
I just wish they would pick up the glass they knocked out of my hand while they're fucking crowd gunning, brother.
Well, that picking up glass and picking up change are a different dance.
Yeah. That's a different dance.
Sometimes you still need a little lesson in etiquette, but that comes
for
with
sure.
Time. That comes with time. But yeah, it's the point I'm trying to make is that it's really refreshing to see, and it's just awesome.
They're always going to be the ones that carry the torch when we fall down.
And you're right. Being open-minded about it is the way to go.
Exactly.
So, the next big question I had. So, with Gojira's recent performance at the Summer Olympics, which was just incredible. It was beautiful to see.
Those dudes rule.
I just get the sensation that now metal has officially been recognized on the world stage as a legitimate form of art. like the doors have been blown wide open. Like, yeah, you've already got your bands like Metallica and Slipknot and whatnot, who are massively successful playing stadiums, but metal's always still, even then, been on the fringe and whatnot, kind of looked down on. But now that's over. The debate is not even academic. It's over. Metal
your grandma just saw heavy metal open the Olympics.
Yeah, and
she can't deny it.
It's officially recognized.
Yes.
So what I'm curious about, what I'd like to hear you guys' 2 cents on, is where do you see still the underground in that equation? Like specifically the artistic side, punk and extreme metal as a form of art. Like, do you see that as still being a responsibility of sorts to like hold down the fort, as it were? And also, like, where do you guys see it as a genuine expression of art, like the artistic side of this insanity that we call home?
I don't know. It's just, I mean, like, it's interesting. I guess there's a couple ways, couple different directions you went with that question, even. But I think that like some, like holding down the fort for people like us, maybe it's a little different. We hang on to influences that we've always had, whereas certain people might not listen to those same things. And you're seeing that, I think, with bands that aren't even like comprised of like young members, but still stuff that you weren't seeing 10 years ago, like bands like Lotion, where it's like it's like a punk band mixed with like heavy electronic influence.
Yes.
Or like Hers Collective, similar.
Hers Collective,
or
very
Brat,
cool.
where it's like not to compare the two of those bands, but it's like they're using maybe more like poppy samples in between songs. It's more of like almost a dance party in between the heavy music that they are playing. But then they're like in between, they're using full use of a sample board that is comprised of stuff that people don't normally use in this genre of music. So.
I would feel that, having it on such a grand stage, again, it's always been creeping its way in, and Slayer is just fucking the Beatles. It's 3-minute pop songs. It really is. It really fucking is.
Hot takes here at Video
It's
Live.
3-minute pop songs. They got an intro, verse, chorus, bridge, guitar solo, and chorus. It's a pop song. They're all pop songs. It's fucking great. It's brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
People didn't really want to see it like that, but now we're seeing like Britney Spears, or I don't know who the current pop stars are, but like we're this close to having double bass and blast beats and breakdowns and pop music. And I see that these kids, like, they're growing up with all these influences. Like, we grew up listening to whatever traditional pop music our parents did, and those influences creep into songwriting. Like, ooh, that catchy hook in a death metal song. Why is this this little guitar harmony that like is really pretty, but it carries the song melodically or something like that. Now kids are taking influences from what they grew up in, maybe even before they were into heavy music or their parents listened to, be it hip hop, R&B, just regular pop music or dance music. And they're taking that influence and putting it into heavy music, and it fucking belongs there.
Yeah, it really
Art
does.
is supposed to be inclusive and all-encompassing. It really shouldn't have boundaries. And gatekeeping, sure, to a certain extent, we don't want fucking idiots and assholes in our scene, but
that's the inherent
you
value.
need
But yeah.
to always let them in and then decide that. You don't get to fucking close the door on anyone. And I love these kids for opening their doors. That's all. Like, that's it, basically. These kids have open doors, and I love it. I love seeing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You
I
know?
agree.
Yeah.
And it's funny, you kind of answered my next question by answering that first question,
Sick.
because
Look at that
I
efficiency.
I was wondering, like, with the inevitable like influx of new fans that's going to happen from this highly popularized, televised performance, there's going to be a new influx of people, and there's going to be changes on the horizon. I was going to ask, where do you see that going? You kind of already answered.
I've been
that.
waiting for blast beats and double bass breaks in pop music for 10 years. I'm like, it's there.
It's
right there. And now I think we're there now. Hopefully. I hope so. I want to turn on pop music. I want to hear the next Britney Spears have a blast beat. Whoever she is, or him or her or they. The next great pop star, they're going to have some metal influences coming out.
And also, conversely, it would be really cool to see, like, maybe the music itself doesn't structurally or stylistically change too much, but they're not as afraid to tap into, like, really dark, like, evil subjects.
Yeah.
I always have such a soft spot for somebody with a really powerful melodic singing voice singing about some dark, depressing, fucked up
yes,
shit.
of course.
So that could potentially lead into that, too. Like some real shit, not just like my life is awesome, I'm hot, life is good, blah, blah,
I mean,
blah.
like, Dolly Parton Jolene is a dark song.
It very much is.
I think that people stepped away from making music that was personal and let the producers write pop music for too long.
That's a whole different can of worms.
I
We're talking
know.
about old country being it's like drug addicted and heartbroken. That's
Right.
real country right there.
Yeah. But
I mean, some of the more like outlaw country. I was saying to someone recently, I was like, that's one of the few genres of music where they actually talk about like cocaine use in their lyrics and stuff. I mean, I'm sure, that's not.
But like
the
grandma and
norm,
grandpa
but
will
it's
put it on and then hear heavy metal and be like, that's too much racket. It's like, dog, you're singing about being wasted and crashing your car.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right. Like,
you can just understand the lyrics better.
I'm singing half-assed lyrics about Satan.
Yeah.
I don't even really give a
Yeah.
shit. So the next thing I wanted to touch on was you guys. I've only known you guys since January. When we showed up for this first show, I had no idea who you guys were, and you guys blew me away. I had a great time. I had an excellent interview, and the main takeaway that I got from this is you guys are road dogs to the core. You love doing what you do. That might be, maybe I'm glamorizing it a little bit.
We do.
But I wanted to talk a little bit about like life on the road and whatnot. And if I'm not mistaken, you guys have got 2 whole bands and all your gear in one vehicle.
8 dudes, 1 van.
So,
And yeah.
first of all, God bless.
Thank you.
And but so what do the logistics of that look like? How does all this insane Tetris work? And also, what are like the absolute? You're giving up a lot, but what are the absolute necessities that you cannot live without in this situation you found yourselves in?
Leg room, air conditioning. There's
Maybe the radio, but also not as bad as the leg room and the air conditioning.
more sleep. Basically, think of it this way. If you're by yourself and you stop at the gas station to grab a snack, it takes you as long as it takes you. If you go with one other person, it takes you as long as 2 people takes, and that might be that guy's in the bathroom while you're ready to go. When you have 8 people in one vehicle, burdened with backpacks on their laps and things falling on their heads and just a wall of shit they have to move to get out of the van, when you say 15 minutes, hard 15 minutes, well, that turns into about a half hour pretty easily.
Easy.
So that's one of the biggest stresses on the road, especially with this tour, is that every day poses a new challenge. Some little problem will arise, and it's up to one of us, to usually me or Alex, to deal with that, while also kind of babysitting all the other adults in a sense, because they have no facility to handle the problem necessarily. But you can't expect 8 grown people to sit completely still and just fold their hands and wait sometimes. So like, oh, can we go get something to eat? We're really hungry. Be like, yeah, 5 minutes. And then again, it's a half hour later. So it's stressful, but it's fucking awesome. You end up becoming the best of friends with these people because you have to suffer together.
Absolutely. There's something to be said about shared suffering.
Yes,
It creates
compromise means no one gets what they want, and we're all just dealing with it, but it's fucking fun when you love each other.
All right. So another perspective. I haven't been on the road as much as you guys. I got out and did some weekend warrior tours and some long road trips here and there when I was playing in bands. But the one thing I did notice, and I think you guys could relate to, is that time really slows down when you're on the road. It feels like at times you're almost like removed from reality, and you're on your own schedule, and that can alter the way you see the world. It opens up, like, you see how big of a place this world, even just this country, really is, and how similar it is, but also how far removed a lot of shit is, and how time just stands still in certain places. So I'm just curious, has it done so for you, like altered your perspective of how you see the world, and if so, how?
Yeah, for sure. I think our bass player Ryan asked me earlier today, are we at like the halfway part? And I point, and I just started laughing because I think we're only on day 9.
Day 10 of 34.
Truthfully, I'm not counting. I just hear what other people say. It's day
You're
something.
you're just starting to get used to the water.
Exactly, in a sense.
But
yeah.
no, I'm like, can't be the halfway point because geographically that'd have to be somewhere in California or on the West Coast. And also, where it's 34, 35 day tour, it's about 5.5 weeks, and it's only been 9 days. So like maybe in about a week we'll get to the halfway point.
I feel like
we'll see how everyone feels then.
we definitely create our own vortex of what you're saying, the time slowing down, but time also speeds up dramatically here and there. You'll again, the 5 minute turning into a half hour. It'll be like, man, feels like we have all the time in the world, and then out of nowhere, you're rushing. You're just rushing and rushing and
I
rushing
think
to
you
get it
touched on this
done.
in the last interview, talking about like time changes. Like, oh, we're making good time, and then you cross that imaginary
Well,
line.
that's
You're like, oh, fuck.
that's just a navigational error that we should be on top of.
Well, luckily, we don't have to deal with that until another 2 weeks. We start
Yeah.
going east again.
But yeah, we definitely. I think with this many people in the van, again, like we get out of the van together, we do all of our things together. We kind of create our own little bubble of reality at this point because you have so many people working together in such a small, tight area. There's not a whole lot of outside influence from the people around us when we get in the gas station. It's just like, here's the bubble of dudes. We're doing our own thing, and then we're out like a fucking hurricane, and these people have no idea what hit them. It's great.
Yeah, it's like every day goes by quick, but then like weeks go by very slow.
The last 20 minutes before you fall asleep feel like an eternity of good times, and then before that, it's stress.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So we had touched on this before. We tried to close out the interview before last time with, do you have any good horror stories? And we were talking off camera that like, and we had mentioned this like, oh, I'm sure as soon as we turn the cameras off, we'll think of something. And then we were talking off camera.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us what it's really like out there. What kind of shit did you guys have to deal with?
Well, real quick, I'll tell you, after we saw you last time, we woke up in a snowstorm in Texas. We joined up with our buddies Torsion. They fucking rule. Their car broke down, so then we had to throw them in our van with their gear to drive through the rest of the snowstorm. Our bassist at the time smoked some Delta 9 in the van or some shit and lost his mind.
Smoke weed, by the way.
No.
So he was like having he couldn't communicate for several days. We basically had like every bizarre thing happen. But on this tour, every day it's something like the AC breaks, or like something falls off the van, or like someone left something behind, or like we're running late because of this, or like it's just every day. I can't think of any. It's when you ask, you can never think of the specifics. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But today, like I said, we wake up and the AC is broken, and we're about to drive into 100-degree weather, and we have New Mexico and Arizona after Texas. There's no way in hell we're going to survive with 8 people.
Going to San Diego.
Not going to happen. So interesting things like that are a daily occurrence. Man, I know as soon as the camera's off, we're going to have better shit to say.
Oh, no, it's just
that was probably one of the craziest things that happened. I mean, you left out the part where he begged us. English wasn't his first language, so he was begging us in Spanish to take him to the hospital. And
Oh, yeah, on the last tour.
And I'm like,
Andreas,
that's not
the
a good
bassist.
idea. I mean, like, I have compassion for everyone who intakes too much for their own well-being, but I'm like, taking him to the hospital ain't going to do him goddamn anything except possibly getting him deported.
But he was so insistent. We drove him to the ER, and I'm like, there it is. And he started to snap out of
yeah,
it.
you realize.
It's like holding someone over the Grand Canyon when they say they want to jump. Are you sure? Take a look. And then he's like, no, okay.
It looked really
I'm
far
good,
from the top when we got him.
Yeah.
But that's a good enough answer in and of itself. There's always something. It's just the nature of the beast.
It's always when you least expect it. He was driving. I was in the captain's chair, sitting shotgun.
Snow-covered highway.
And Andreas doesn't smoke weed, and these guys from Tennessee, we piled them into the van, and they have these like Delta 8 pens because you can't buy legitimate THC in that state.
It's like smoking salvia.
So they gave basically like a salvia e-pen to a guy who like doesn't smoke weed at all. But I would have never guessed that that's what he was going to partake in the back. Like I would have thought, he knows better than that. And all of a sudden, we're just staring at the highway, and he's just like he's
tapping
like,
me on the
solo
shoulder.
muerto.
He just goes, solo muerto, solo muerto.
Yeah.
I'm dead over and over.
And we're like, what's going on? Like we didn't see him hit this thing, so we're just getting caught up to speed as fast as you get hit by a car. You know, like it's just 0 to 60.
Pulled over on the side of the highway.
Yeah, we had
a fucking
pull over
snowstorm.
on the side of the highway.
It was absolute madness.
It's a good thing that a cop didn't drive by because he would have definitely stopped.
And we're talking like
right.
we're talking a 2-lane highway that is now 1 lane because of the ruts of the snow.
I just really don't know how that works when you live in New York and you have a lot of amenities, even if you aren't let's say a legal U.S. citizen. But when you're in Tennessee and you talk to a police officer or someone who works in the hospital and they ask for your identification, I don't know what happens. Yeah, and I didn't want to find out.
We were a little worried, but like I said, we were like,
we wanted him to get medical attention, but I didn't want him to. I was like, I don't think
Yeah.
Maybe
that
we don't
point,
take him to the hospital. It's
I had
not
the-
a thing you want to say
I
about
had that
anyone.
feeling, like I said, I was like, this will be his Grand Canyon moment. Like, here's the ledge.
At
Are
that
you
point,
good?
You
He's
just
good.
have to be good friends. And
That's
be like,
what it
dude,
was,
you're
man.
gonna have to ride this shit
Yeah.
out, man.
That was
We're-
the
we're
worst
So
part.
it
He was
worked
trying
out.
to be a good friend by taking him to the hospital. I was trying to be a good friend and be like, let's not take him
Like
to the
I
fucking
said,
hospital.
I've held the people over the ledge and let them make the decision, and they always say no.
I just know that all they were going to do was give him an expensive IV
yeah.
drip, some crackers, and an apple juice.
That was definitely the
And
wildest
then
thing
send
on
him out
that
with
tour.
a bill possibly
Right.
worse.
Right.
Like, where are they gonna? They're gonna wonder where you're coming from, where you
or do you
live.
want to, put your trust in homie with the dreadlocks here, who's been around the block a time or two? And
Suck on this
It
It's
worked
like,
out. It worked out. But yeah, on this one, I mean, good God, I know there's probably something, but yeah, every day poses its little challenge. And again, just being in that tight of a space with that many people, everybody's going to have their moment where like, they're like, I need to just fucking breathe, you know?
It's God bless. But all right, so last question, and then we'll wrap this up. So after this tour is over, what does the future of Anti-Sapien look like? You guys got any new material?
Album number 2.
Yeah,
We've
Tell
been
us.
playing some new songs on the road, at least 2 new songs in the set. We have 4 songs, demoed out in our practice space and mastered and mixed just to show to people. Hey, if you're a label, hit us up. But album number 2, definitely. And next year, we have a whole lot of touring plans. I don't know if we're even talking about those yet.
We're not really.
We're not talking about
We're
those
not
plans.
saying
Hey,
shit.
we're touring a bunch next year in places.
Yes, international stuff maybe.
I don't want to jinx it. We can't really talk about some of those plans, but pay attention to our social media. We will be announcing a lot of stuff for next year. We do have a lot of plans.
Yeah,
Sucks to not be able to tell you about them, but we do have an album in the works. And yeah, album number 2 and a lot more touring.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to it, man, and I'm looking forward to the show tonight. And speaking of which, I think it's about time we wrap
It's
this up.
time.
So,
Hell yeah.
Thank you guys very much. It's always a pleasure to speak to you guys. If you end up back here again, hit us up and we'll be here, dude.
Hell
Thank
yeah,
you
man.
very much.
Thank you, Tom.
And
Hell yeah.
Anti-Sapien.
Thank you.
Thank you to everybody. If you like what you see, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Hell
I'm gonna
yeah.
fill this beer and
Thank
go
you.
check out the show.
Cheers.
Let's go.